so much for coming out to our annual financial aid night. We're thrilled to be doing it in person this evening, and we are videotaping it. So for those of you who brought a notepad, if you want to just relax and enjoy, I will post it on Canvas, hopefully within the next week or so. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you Donna Wilkowski. She is the Director of Financial Aid at Bucks County Community College.
Hi, everyone. The presentation that I'm going to be giving tonight isn't just related to financial aid at Bucks County Community College. It's related to any school that your child plans to attend. The financial aid process is a little similar in all schools. There may be a separate application that you might have to do for your institution, and there may be different deadlines. But tonight, the whole financial aid process is going to be similar for all students. I'm going to go over a little bit of the agenda. The agenda for this evening is what is financial aid, all the sources that you can receive from financial aid, how to apply, what happens after you apply, options if your aid doesn't cover your full tuition and fees, resources, and questions at the end. If you hold your questions at the end, I'll be here after the event to answer any questions if you want to ask privately. The basics of federal financial aid, okay, it's the joint responsibility, like the slide says, of the student and parent to cover the expenses of their college that they plan to attend. All financial aid is based on a federal formula that is provided to all schools. All schools use the same federal formula. They may have separate institutional formulas for their own institutional aid. Schools such as Villanova has a large endowment fund, so they may be able to give you additional aid to go to that school, but it's based on their institutional application and their institutional formula. Like the slide says, not everybody receives financial aid, but you do have the opportunity to take a loan, okay? Everybody has the opportunity to get a loan. So it's if they say that you're not eligible for financial aid, you can always take out a loan. Loans are money that has to be repaid with interest, so it does cost you a little bit more money to use a loan to go to school. And there's a lot of talk about loans right now in the media with the public service loan forgiveness. That's for students that have a loan that they borrowed in the past, and now if they're working at a public service type position, they can get their loan forgiven. Financial aid consists of funds provided to cover your cost, okay? There's grants, scholarships, and loans, and also free money, okay? Free money would be like merit scholarships, scholarships that you apply for through scholarship searches. You don't have anything to do to, there's no parameters or no repercussions to get that money. The only thing that you must do is maintain academic progress, typically, okay? Scholarships and grants is money given by the federal government. And we live in the state of Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania will give you a state grant to attend a college. They give you more money if you attend a school that's in Pennsylvania. So you want to make sure that you take that opportunity. They have the third type of financial aid, which is self-help, and that would be loans or also federal work study, working at the college on or off campus, and getting a paycheck. But that allows you to pay expenses that you may not have, like indirect expenses, travel, transportation, gas, lunches, that kind of thing. But you get paid on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, and you can use that money while you're in school. The best part of the work study program, which I'll go a little bit into further in the presentation, but work study, you earn the money, you get paid, you get the paycheck, you get the money or the funds, but when you apply for the next year's financial aid applications, it's not counted. So it's a good opportunity for students. We have funding sources. I already said the federal government, state government, schools or colleges, they can give you institutional aid, like honors, dean scholarships, whatever, and then scholarships. Scholarships are separate applications than the FAFSA, and it's something that the student must do on their own, okay? Parents can do it for the student, but the student must do it on their own. It doesn't help. The FAFSA application doesn't help with scholarships. It helps you get it sometimes, but you have to do an additional application to get the scholarship. One of the things that I always recommend students do when you do a scholarship application is apply for the scholarships that require an essay. The reason that I say that is because not everybody likes to write, and if you write a really good essay, you may get the scholarship because not everybody will participate in that scholarship. You know what I mean? So it's a good opportunity for students to apply. If you like to write, make sure you proofread it, get it proofread by someone else, not yourself. Get a proofread and submit that application. It's always a good opportunity. A lot of times there's another funding source that people forget about, your employer. Parents' employers or students' employers may provide funding for you to attend college. I know in this area, Chick-fil-A, if you work a year before you go to school, they'll provide you with money. Wawa gives people money if they go into a supervisory position. They'll give them money to attend college if they're in a supervisory position. So there's opportunities out there, you just have to look for the resources. This slide is the steps to receive financial aid. You have to always look for free money first because you want to get as much free money as you can so you don't have to repay, okay? Know the deadlines. The deadlines are really important. You may miss out on an opportunity to receive some funding if you don't apply by the application deadline. Step 3 is the most important one. You have to complete the FAFSA. The FAFSA it's an abbreviation for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. That is the tool that the majority of the United States uses, as well as other countries, to provide funding for students to attend college. It's the free application. It doesn't cost anything. It just takes time and energy to do it, okay? That's number 4. That was number 3. Number 4 is compare school financial aid offers and look at them carefully. Sometimes a school will say, we're providing you 100% of your need, but the majority of the money that you're receiving is, or could be, loans. So it's really not free money, it's not really federal money, it's loan money, and loans do require a cost associated with that. You have to pay interest, you have to repay the loan, and there are fees associated with the loan. So it costs money to borrow a loan. So you want to make sure when you apply or you receive your financial aid notifications or your financial aid offers that you really check read the fine print. Make sure that you can afford to take out that loan or cover the expenses that are not covered by financial aid if you attend that institution. Number 5, make sure you have the money that you need. Everybody wants to go to Princeton. Everybody would like to go to Harvard, but maybe their resources, you can only afford a state school. There's nothing wrong with that. You can always get your state degree and transfer and get your master's degree at Harvard or Princeton. Just make sure that you don't overextend yourself. You want to make sure that you can afford the education that you're paying for, okay? First thing is you apply for the FAFSA, okay? Free application for federal student aid. There was an agency out there in the past that charged. Their identifier on the web was FAFSA.com, and we would get people that said, I don't know why it's supposed to be free. They're asking me for $80. Well, the federal government did away with that company. I don't know how, but they did away with it. So it's FAFSA.org or FAFSA.ed.gov. You complete the FAFSA application every academic year. So it always begins in October. The application is available October 1st, and you want to make sure that you get it in as soon as possible. But as as soon as the earliest deadline for whatever school you plan to attend, okay? The state grant is another form that you'll have to complete if you want to receive a Pennsylvania state grant. We always say that the application deadline date for the state grant is May 1st. If you're a first-year student and you're attending a trade or technical school, a community college, you have until August 1st. But I recommend that everybody do the application by May 1st because that's the deadline for any renewal applications. If you can remember May 1st, then that will help you out in the long run when you apply for aid for the following year. I also said that some schools require additional forms. They may have an institutional application, but they may also want this CSS, College Scholarship or College Board. There is a fee required with that. It's a $25 application fee, so you want to make sure that the schools that you're applying to require that form. If they don't require that form, you save yourself $25. So you want to make sure you only use the CSS profile if it's required. If you have schools that you're applying to and they're usually costly schools, they will require this because they want to be able to give their institutional aid to students of need, okay? And they have a separate application for that, so you want to make sure you follow through with it. The CSS profile, like I said, is $25 for the first school and $16 for each additional school. So again, make sure that you follow the directions and the instructions and note if the school requires that form. Deadlines are very, very important. I said that earlier. May 1st is the application deadline date for the state grant, and you'll see August 1st there for first-time students attending the community college. Make sure with the state grant you apply on time. They do run out of funds, and you want to make sure that you meet their deadline. Each school has their own application deadline date. I know at Bucks we have a May 1st priority date, but we'll award people all the way through the semester. Schools like Temple, the state schools, they may have a February 1st deadline date. So you want to make sure that you check the school's website and find out what the deadline is. Like I said, if you are applying and you apply late, you may miss opportunities to receive the state or the institutional aid. So you want to make sure that you meet the deadlines to get whatever you're entitled to. This question or this slide is information that goes on the FAFSA. So it's yes if the parents are married and living together, if you have biological parents living together, if you have divorced or separated parents, it's the parent with whom the student lives with the majority of the time. I always get a question if we have split custody 50-50. I always say you would put the family or the parent with whom the student resides with most of the time. If there's one parent that is using the student as or paying for their insurance, you might want to put that parent's income information on that. The question on the FAFSA says who provides more than 50% of the student support. That you have to discuss with the parent, either parent, okay? In situations where the parents are divorced and remarried, if the student lives with the parent that has remarried, the step parent's information must go on the FAFSA application, okay? Anybody that is adopted, the adoptive parent's income is required. If you have a dependent student, someone that's under the age of 24, and they live with anyone besides the parents, usually that person's income information does not go on the FAFSA. So foster parents or legal guardians or grandparents, their information does not go on the FAFSA. There is a requirement that you contact a school because the school may have what we call a dependency override that the student and person that the student is living with may need to complete, okay? So it's not, you just can't like leave it blank. There is a process for that. Okay. This slide tells you exactly what you need to get prepared to complete the FAFSA. Everybody's required to have their Social Security number, both student and parents, any kind of tax information or tax returns, any untaxed income that the parent or family has received, the amount of their checking, savings, and any kind of assets that they would have at the date that you file, okay? Investment income. Each parent or one parent and the student has to have separate email accounts. So you have to make sure that you put one email account for the parent and then a separate one for the student. Here's a little trick too. When you apply for scholarships, use I don't want to say an alias email, but use an email where both the parent and student can access the record, because sometimes students might not have the ability to go in and do the application, or they may not even check it. So if the parent can go in and see that there's applications that they may have to complete, then both of you can view that. So I always recommend that both the parent and student use an application or an email address that scholarships can be checked, okay? And then also, in order to sign the FAFSA, it's an electronic form. You have to have an FSA ID. That is created by yourself and your student, and they tell you not to write it down, but I think you should, okay? It's like your PIN number. It's a number, you create it, okay? It's something that you can log back into the FAFSA. You can log back into NSLDS with this ID number. It allows you access to the systems, okay? So all this for 22-23, if you're a senior, you're applying for financial aid now, you want to make sure that you do these applications as soon as possible. The application or the form was available as of October 21st or October 1st. And when you do the FAFSA, you're going to use prior income. So when you do this year's FAFSA, you're going to use 2020 income information, okay? It's confusing, but it's prior year. They just made that change 2 years ago, and it does help the parents and the student, because the income, like most people have completed their taxes by that time, so it can be reflective of their status at that time. I list this slide because sometimes there's a student that may meet some of this criteria, and they can apply for the FAFSA as an independent student. If they're married, if they're a veteran, if they're working on graduate level, you guys are all just high school students, so you might not meet that criteria. If you're an emancipated minor in legal guardianship, if you're an orphan, ward of the court, if you're in foster care, you can do that. If you have legal dependents other than a spouse. So if a student has a child, they can file as independent, as long as they're supporting that child with at least 50% of the, they're providing at least 50% of the support for that child. If a student is deemed homeless by a proper authority, you would have to get a document from either your high school guidance counselor or some member of the homeless community that you're living in to provide that information. And then the last bullet says the PA state grant can be different. Because this state grant is providing you with a state award, they have different criteria. So it can be totally different than the above bullets. So when you create your FSA ID accounts, both the student and the parent has to create one. You complete a username, you have to do a password, you have to put a separate email account. They want your mobile phone number, and there's some security questions that if you forget or you miss something, you can always go back in as long as you answer the security questions correctly. And then also, you want your Social Security number. We have a lot of mistakes or a lot of errors with the FAFSA if the parent's completing the FAFSA and they put their Social Security number for the student, it never matches up with the record. Okay, so you want to make sure that when you do the FAFSA, you put the correct Social Security number down in the correct spots. These are the steps that are required for the FAFSA application. All students or parents, if you log in, if the student logs in, they have to make sure that they stay as the student. You answer the questions as the student. If the parent logs in, the same thing. If the parent's logging in and they're completing the application, make sure you're reading the questions, because a lot of it, the first part of the application is for the student. So that's where we get the mix up with the Social Security numbers. The second is a disclaimer that you accept the opportunities. If you lie on the form, you're liable for a fine, all that kind of stuff. So you have to make sure that you answer those questions. The application year, if you're applying right now for the 22-23 academic year, there's 2 applications out there. So make sure you're doing the correct application, because the current year, 21-22, is still out there. Because remember, students can apply up until June of the end of the academic year. So you want to make sure that you're completing the application for the correct academic year. There's also the save key. The save key is used if you're completing the application and you have to leave. You have to go, pick up your kids, or you have to do something. You can save it and then go back into the same area that you were completing it. So a save key will help you complete the application at a later time. And then the fifth one is the introduction to the information. If you look, it's like student demographics and school selection. We're going to talk a little bit about that in the next 2 slides. The FAFSA, this is what the FAFSA looks like. You can do it on a laptop, you can do it on the desktop, and you can also do it in a mobile application. The mobile application, although you can do it, is very hard to read. I like to see it on the big screen, but everybody is entitled, you can do it. They have it, it's available to do that. If you do the FAFSA online, there's the ability for, it's faster. It has skip logic built into it. So if you say that you're a divorced parent and the student lives with one parent, it won't ask you for any of the information from the other parent. If your income is below a certain amount, you don't have to list asset information. So it does help if you do the application online. All students are required to do the FAFSA every year, and it'll keep some of your information, but it won't keep your income information. So you want to make sure that you do it. Some parents say, I don't want to do it online, I want to do a paper application. There's a difference between the online application can be processed within a week that you would get results. The paper application takes months. So the Department of Ed wants you to do it online. Students can complete the application, and they can select up to 10 schools that they can have the information from the FAFSA sent to. So if you have your school choices, do not list them alphabetical, list them in the order of preference. So your first school, your second school, your first school that you want to attend, put that school number 1. Second, number 2, and go down the line. Don't list them alphabetical, and don't list them, like in sections. You want to make sure that you list it in order that you want to attend that institution or that school. We always get questions, what happens if I have more than 10 schools that I'm applying to? No problem. You have to do the FAFSA with the first 10 schools, get the processed results, and then you can always go in and delete the number 1 school and add a different school. Okay, so you have the opportunity to apply to other schools. You can apply to 20 schools if you want, but you have to let the process work, go through, and then reapply. You don't have to do the whole FAFSA, you just are going to update the school choices, okay? One of the main things that you want to do, though, is if you decide that you are attending an institution and that school isn't listed in the number 1 spot, you should go back in and update it to be that school in the number 1 spot. So I'm going to use Bucks as an example. You've applied to 10 different schools. Bucks was your number 10 choice, okay? you didn't get accepted at all other 9 schools, so Bucks did accept you. If I were you, I would go back in and put Bucks as number 1, okay? When you do that, it allows the state grant program to process your award for our institution. So you want to make sure that you do that. It's because it's only for the state grant that you want to make sure that you do that. And one of the other things that people ask all the time is, what happens to that information? Other schools do not see who you applied to, or that you've sent your application to. If you apply and use Bucks as an institution, we're going to get your record. If you use the FAFSA application that you're going to apply to Villanova, they're going to get your record, but they're not going to know that you applied to Bucks. They've taken that information out of the FAFSA. It used to be in there, but it's no longer in there. So just to let you know, there's no fighting among schools about that information any longer. Make sure I can answer all the questions on this. The next slide is the IRS Data Retrieval. We said when you first apply, you have to get all your tax information available. You want to have your W-2s, you want to have your actual tax return. But if you're completing the FAFSA and you select the IRS Data Retrieval tool, what this process does is it stops the application from your FAFSA, it stops the FAFSA, and you go out to the IRS website, and it brings back in your information into the FAFSA application. So it allows you not to have to complete the application with all your income information. And if you use this process, it saves the parent and the student the requirement to submit their tax return to the financial aid office. You may have to submit your W-2s, but it does save you the opportunity. As long as we know that you've used the IRS Data Retrieval tool, we won't ask you for your tax information, okay? Not everybody can use the IRS Data Retrieval tool, and there are some requirements that if you file head of household, you can't use it. If you are married filing separately, you can't use it, but it does help a majority of the students. One of the things that we have concerns with, or there's a problem with the FAFSA application when you're doing it, the reason that we tell you to bring your tax information, even though you don't have to enter all the numbers in, you have to make sure that the information that you enter when you go to the IRS website matches exactly the information on your tax return. So if you say John or Johnny, and when you type it into the IRS Data Retrieval, you type the word John, it won't match up. If you use road and the IRS tax return is using the abbreviation, it won't match up. So it has to be exactly capitalized, lowercase, the whole thing has to be exactly how it's reported on the IRS tax return. So I say that because guess what? That's a big issue when we help students and parents do the FAFSA completion nights. Check marks. As soon as you complete a section of the FAFSA, there's a green check mark that comes up. If you see that, that's a good thing. It means that part of the FAFSA is complete. Sometimes if you leave the FAFSA and you use your save key, if you come back, you might have to go back to that section that's not complete to do that. The next slide, if you're doing the state grant application, this form is this last page is the confirmation page. This is where you would complete the state grant application. There's a spot on there that says, would you like the information from your FAFSA to go directly to the state grant program? If you say yes to that, they'll send the information. If by chance that you missed this or your pop-up blockers are on or something, there could be a problem that you can't get to this information, after you've completed your FAFSA, give it like 3 days, then you can go onto the FIA website and do their application for the state grant. You need time for it to process. Everybody gets a result of when they do the FAFSA, and one of the things where that red on the gray part up there, the red arrow, that's the expected family contribution that you would receive. that's what is calculated based on your FAFSA, okay? And you see that there's one school listed there. The next slide, this one says the online state grant application. Like I said, you can do this after you've completed the FAFSA, after you've done the confirmation page, or you can go directly into the state grant program and do this application. You only have to do this application once. Each year after, you just have to update the information if there's changes. Along with the FAFSA and the state grant application, you can always hover over the question and it will give you a more detailed explanation of the question, okay? The state grant program has a lot of other criteria that has to be met in order for you to receive a state grant. You have to be at least half-time, you have to have being enrolled in the correct program of study, you have to be eligible, like an eligible non-citizen, you have to be domiciled in Pennsylvania. They have a lot more detailed information for state grant assistance. They ask for employment status of both the parent and the student, and in the state of Pennsylvania, if you have been saving for your education or your kids' education in a 529 savings plan, that information gets reported on the FAFSA, and you also want to tell the state how much you have earned or you have in that account when you do the state grant application, because they remove it from the calculation. So they're kind of giving you a benefit of saving in the state of Pennsylvania for the 529 plan. The next slide talks about special circumstances, or otherwise known as special conditions. This happens if, remember, you're using 2 years prior year income information. If when you're doing, or in the year that you're applying, if you had any kind of anything listed on the slide, like divorced parent, separated, disability, recent death, reduction in income, unemployment benefits that are received, medical and dental expenses not covered by your insurance. These are all special conditions that you can contact the school that you plan to attend and find out if they have a special condition form that you can complete. Like I said, if you're doing your application for prior year, things have changed. This year, things have changed from, COVID. So a lot of parents have a reduction in income. You can do a special condition. You have to complete the FAFSA with the actual income, but you have the ability to go back and update it with estimated income, or you have to provide documentation that says that your income has been reduced by whatever amount it has been, okay? Also, the state grant program will also give you that consideration. The decision is made by the school, and it's the school's responsibility to collect the documents, and the Department of Ed can't change the results. So if you don't provide the school enough information, we can decline your special condition, and just know that you can't get it from the, you can't go to the federal government and say they denied me, how come? It's our prerogative to do that. If you don't give us enough information, we can't legitimately make an estimate of your income, okay? So you want to provide us with all the documents you can. I talked about verification a little bit. I alluded to it. Verification is the process where the school has to verify or document all the information that you've listed on the FAFSA to make sure that the information is accurate. Sometimes there's mistakes made, and if the school finds the mistake, we will make a correction to your application, and it could benefit the student, it could be good for the student, or it could be, it may change your eligibility, but we're required to verify the information, okay? So that is the verification process, like auditing. We're auditing the information that you provided. Okay, you did the forms. Everything's processed, you did it, you got a result, everything's golden, right? What happens next? Okay, as a result of the FAFSA, I already said to you that we get a determination of your expected family contribution. That's the amount that the parent and student, not the dollar amount that they're going to contribute, but the amount that is calculated by the formula of the FAFSA from the CPS results, okay? So it's not exactly what the student is required to pay, but it's the amount that is used in the calculation to determine their cost of attendance and their need, okay? So all schools have a cost of attendance. Included in that cost of attendance is tuition and fees, books and supplies, transportation, personal miscellaneous, room and board. That's it. There's 6 of them. Tuition and fees, room and board, personal miscellaneous, housing, and transportation. So everybody has the same general criteria, but the dollar amounts are going to be a lot different. It doesn't cost as much to attend Bucks County Community College, so our tuition and fee rate is going to be lower. If you plan to attend Thomas Jefferson, it could be higher, okay? So you have to look at that. So cost of attendance is going to be varied amongst the schools that you plan to attend, but your EFC stays the same. Your EFC is the same at Bucks as it is at Villanova, as it is at Bryn Mawr, or, Trenton State, or College of New Jersey, or Rutgers, or whatever school you plan to attend, your EFC is staying the same. It's calculated once, and it's calculated by the same formula. Again, you compare the 8 offers, it's cost minus your EFC equals need, okay? Some schools say that they can provide 100% need, but you have to make sure that you're looking at that correctly, because it could be all loans. You don't want all loans. Gotta hurry up here. Needs analysis calculated by your school. Like I said, cost of attendance minus your EFC equals the amount that the school can meet to cover your unmet need, is the amount that the school's going to try to meet and give you aid to go up to that. There's a couple things that will come with your financial aid offer, your financial aid award, and you can actually look at this now at the school's websites. It's called the net price calculator. It used to be called the net price calculator. It's called the college financing plan right now, but it is estimated income, and it's income or estimated results, and it is a very generic, like black and white type calculation. So it doesn't include a lot of the things that specific things for each individual student, but it does give you a calculation of how much you might need to cover the cost at that institution. And again, like the slide says, it doesn't include scholarships. I spoke about EFC. EFC is the measure of the amount that the parent and student can provide to attend school. It's not the dollar amount, it's just a calculated amount, okay? You said that the EFC remains the same. These are the factors that goes into the EFC. Your parents' income and assets, student income and assets, family size, the number in college, and then the age of the older parent. They understand that parents have, older parents might have saved more, so they give you a calculation or a asset protection allowance for the age of the parent. So it's a really good, it's a calculation. If you want to go out and see the calculation, you can go on the website, the Department of Ed's website, and see the calculation. It takes a lot of things into consideration. State you live in, the state taxes and that. So it's out there if you want to review that. We'll put you to sleep if you kind of read it, but whatever. There is, like I said, an asset protection allowance for the age of the older parent, and each, if you have 2 or more students, kids that are in college, that's calculated in the formula. You never want to list your principal place of residence as an asset. That's your home. You don't, everybody needs a home to live in. You do have to import or put into the application if you have a rental property, if you have a mountain house, a shore house, if you have something, that you're renting out, you have a house in Philadelphia that you're renting out, you need to put that in there. If it's rental income, it has to be included on your FAFSA. I said earlier about the 529 savings plans. That amount, the amount that you contribute each year, not the amount that's in the pool, the amount that you contribute each year is reported as an asset. Same thing as your 501k, okay? If you have that, it's the amount that you contribute each year. So it would be amount in box 12 of your tax return, that amount has to be reported. Same thing with the students. Student has to complete the application and put all their income and assets on the form. You can see on the slide 6970 is protected by the formula. Anything that the student earns above 6970 is assessed at 50%. Okay, students must report any assets that they have in their name, okay? And all their assets are assessed at 20%. So if they need a car to go to college, you might want to use the money to buy a car for college if they have a big amount in there, okay? When you do the FAFSA, you always want to do it the day after you pay all your bills, okay? It's a little hint there. Calculating financial need, we kind of went over this. This is just a brief little calculation. The school cost is $32,000, their EFC is $5,000. They need $27,000 to attend that school each year. Tuition could go up, so it could be, a little bit more than that. Any financial aid office is going to package your award based on that calculation and provide you with any kind of funding that they can. Of course, we go with free money, scholarships, grants, and then usually the last type of financial aid is the loan, okay? EFC stays the same. I said that a couple times, but it's really important because the costs vary. EFC stays the same. So you might have to come up with more money if you're attending a more higher price school. Every school is required to send, if a student completes a FAFSA, every school is required to send a financial aid notice, a financial aid offer, financial aid award letter. They're always required to give you something in return. The notification either comes by regular mail, it could come electronically, it could come by way of the school portal. The school has the ability to send it various different ways. With the pandemic, we used to send paper award letters. We stopped that. We send everything is electronic now. So just want to make sure that you keep up to date with your email accounts because you may receive more financial aid offers in the email, okay, by way of email. When you get that offer, you need to review it, make sure that you have everything listed, you understand it, please read it. There's fine points, there's rights and responsibilities, there's what you have to do to continue to receive those awards. So you want to make sure that you do read that information. The bottom bullet says there's no standard format for financial aid notices, and that's true. So they all may look differently. Some may require you to complete it. You have to accept it and send it back. Other schools, like our school, we don't ask for confirmation. We just assume if you applied for financial aid, you want whatever we can give to you. This slide just is also reiterating the same things that I've been saying. When you get your financial aid notice or your financial aid offer, it could say, in order for you to continue to receive this financial aid offer, you need to maintain satisfactory academic progress. You may need to have a GPA of 3 or above. It depends on the school and what kind of financial aid they're giving you. If it's a loan, it needs to be repaid. Is there any requirements that you need to get that loan funds? At our school, we certify after we receive the master promissory note and entrance counseling. Other schools send the offer out with the loan on it, and then the student has to do those extra steps to get the money, to get the disbursement. So just make sure that you ask the school what financial aid or what requirements are needed to continue to receive those financial aid offers that you've received. The federal programs are money that comes directly from the federal government. Right now, the Pell Grant is the maximum award. is $64.95. That amount is if you have 0 EFC, so your expected family contribution is 0, you would get the maximum Pell Grant award, but that amount is the same at our school or at Villanova or Drexel or whatever. So that amount stays the same, just like your EFC. It depends on what you're entitled to. The maximum EFC in order to get a Pell Grant would be $58.46. So if you have that high EFC, you might not receive an award amount of $64.95. You're only going to get maybe $500. I think the minimum award is $500 or $653. I think it's a really weird number, but so you can still get an award, but it's based on your income and your EFC. Some schools will give you FSAOG, it's Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, and those awards can range anywhere from $100 to $4,000. It depends on what the school's funded, okay? Federal Work Study is the same thing. It could be an award of $5,700, $5,000, $4,000. It depends on how much the school has to offer the student and how many hours the student can work a week and what the rate of pay is. At our institution, we pay $9.50 an hour. It will go up as the what's that called, minimum wage rate goes up. Most of the programs, in order to receive federal student aid, you have to be attending at least half-time. You can only get a loan if you're at least 6 credits. You have to be 6 credits or above to get a loan. Next slide is the loan programs. There's 2 types of loans, subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized loans, the government pays the interest and during your in-school and grace period. Unsubsidized, the interest accrues and the student is required to pay the interest during their in-school period and their grace period. If you capitalize your interest or your payment, when you end up graduating from school, you're paying interest on top of interest. So you want to make sure that if you can afford to pay the unsubsidized portion of your loan or your payment while you're in school, it helps with your loan amount at the end. All students are eligible for the subsidized, or all students are eligible for a loan. It could mean that they might not get a subsidized loan. It could mean that they get an unsubsidized loan, but they are entitled to a loan. There's no credit check for the student, and it comes in their name. They are responsible for it. And there are, I believe there's 6 repayment type options right now, so they may be able to cover some of their expenses with their loans. And when it comes time to repay the loans, there are 6 different programs that they can have offered to them. As you see, the rate on there is 3.73%, and that was for the 21-22 year. That rate changes every July 1st. So we don't know what it will be for 22-23 yet. There are limits to borrowing loans. You have the opportunity to borrow the maximum amount. As a dependent student, your first year is $5,500. If you're an independent student, you can receive $9,500. $3,500 for first year is subsidized. Anything above that is unsubsidized. And the amount goes up each year that the student is in college. There are aggregate loan limits. $23,000 is for, let me say, no more than $23,000 you can get as subsidized loan funds. The difference of it's $57,500 for a independent student, and it's $31,000 for a dependent student. So that's aggregate loan borrowing. Can't get more than that, no matter what school you're attending. Okay. Graduate loan limits are a little bit higher because graduate school costs a lot more, and you don't. You can borrow more money to go to graduate school because you can't get free money to go to a graduate school. Parents have the opportunity to get a Federal Direct Plus loan. Parent loan for undergraduate students is the acronym that stands for. All students or all parents can borrow up to the cost of attendance each academic year. This loan does require a simple credit check. If you can't meet the credit requirements and you're denied the plus loan, the student can get an additional $4,000 unsubsidized loan added to their financial aid package. There would be a document that the Department of Ed would send to the parent if they don't meet the credit check, and you would have to provide that to the institution. Like I said, you can borrow up to the cost of attendance. This is how some students can attend the more higher price schools. But this loan is in the parent's name. It's usually required to be repaid after the second disbursement is made. So in the spring, the fall semester, you don't have to pay anything. Once the spring semester comes around, you would have to make payment to the, start making your loan payments. There is no debt to income test, and it's very lenient credit check, but sometimes if you have adverse credit, you can't get this type of loan, like I said, so the student has the opportunity to get the additional unsub loan money. We talked about scholarships. Research any scholarship that you can apply for. I want to say that old Courier used to have the college notes section, and you could apply for any scholarships that are listed there. There's a lot of stuff in this PowerPoint presentation that will be provided to you guys if you're interested with the scholarship opportunities that are available, the free searches. So you want to apply for any scholarship money that you can. What was that little comment that I gave you? Apply for the scholarships that have the essay, right? Like I said, some of the scholars, this is a list of the this free scholarship searches where you can get free money from all these different places. Sometimes they'll load up your email account. That's why I say create a separate email account for the scholarships. But it is your opportunity to get whatever money that's out there. A lot of the funds from scholarships go unfunded or stay in the coffers. So you really want to apply for as much scholarship money as you can receive. Don't miss the deadlines. Deadlines are really important for scholarships. And don't fear the essays. Like I said, that's a really good opportunity. And we had a student one year that they were sick, they broke their leg, and they couldn't do anything in the summer. They brought into the financial aid office at Bucks, they brought in over 15 scholarships. There was a $50 scholarship, a $300 scholarships, but they all added up. They didn't have to pay any tuition. So it's a really good opportunity. Even if it covers one book, it still helps, still helps with your expenses. This is the state grant slide. I said a number of times that you want to do the state grant application. Some schools you can get up to $5,000 this year. For 22-23 is $5,000 award, which is almost the same amount, like close to the Pell Grant. So you want to make sure that you get your application in for the state grant before May 1st. They don't use the state grant in the states that surround Pennsylvania. Like you can't use a state grant in New Jersey or New York, Delaware. No, we can give you $500. There's a minimum of $500 if you go to a school in Delaware. It's based on the reciprocation of state grants. Like Jersey students can't come to Pennsylvania and receive a state grant from their New Jersey to come to Pennsylvania school. So it has to do with that. It doesn't have to do with anything for the student. All state grant programs, you have to be at least half-time in order to receive them, okay? Like I said, there are a lot of eligibility criteria for the state grant program. You have to be in an eligible program. You have to be non-certificate, a domicile in Pennsylvania. You have to do all that, and you have to do the application to get that. Here's some other state grant programs. They have state grant work study, where you have the opportunity to work at One of the students that worked in the state grant work-study program worked at the Philadelphia Zoo because we didn't have any jobs that he wanted to do, so he went through the state grant program. He lived in Philadelphia. He went to work at the Philadelphia Zoo. They have a blind or deaf beneficiary grant. They have, if the student is in National Guard, the parents in National Guard, they can get some money from that program. The second one, the PA Military Family Educational Program, that's new last year, but it's a program for students that can receive, if their parents are in the National Guard, they can get money as a dependent of that person. Chaffee Educational Training Grant is somebody that's in the foster care program in high school, and then they're eligible for the Chaffee grant when they attend college, and they'll give up to $5,000. So all these programs are listed. If you want to read more about them, they're in the FIA.org website. So they're all there, okay? The next slide we have is meeting the gap. Remember I said cost minus EFC equals need? If your financial aid offer doesn't cover your need, then how do you pay for the difference? A lot of times you can request a reconsideration from the school to see if there's any additional institutional money that they can give you. If the school can't give you any additional funds, you may have to come up with some kind of tuition payment plan where they'll give you the opportunity to pay off your balance in a monthly payment. Typically, they have to be paid before the next semester starts. Income share agreement, where you might, they might be able to help you out with some kind of, if you plan to work for them or whatever, they might be able to do that. And sometimes they have institutional loans that they might not offer unless you go and request it, okay? Some of the things to use to consider for cutting cost, don't take the full meal plan. Only take the meals that you can afford, like maybe lunch and dinner. If you're not an early morning riser, why take the breakfast plan? You save money that way. Try to rent books instead of purchase them. You buy used books instead of that. You know, all these things help save cost or save money in the long run. Here's some more meeting the gap options. Research, like I said, private scholarships. Check with your employer, check to see if you can get any reimbursement. Sometimes they'll give you a reimbursement if you get all A's. If you get C's, they might give you 50%, or, you know, it depends on what your plan or what the employer will pay. We all know now that Amazon is paying everybody's educational expenses, right? We all need to get a job at Amazon, right? Parents, the PLUS loan, parents can always take out the PLUS loan. I would recommend the home equity loan or line of credit. You make sure that that is going to be able to be afforded by the parent, because that does require payment of interest and fees when you take out home equity loans or line of credit. The one is private alternative loans. That's a loan given by the private lenders or private banks. So they have their own requirements, but right now, this academic year, the private loan rate was less than the PLUS loan rate. So you really had to check and make sure that you compared their offers, because it might be a difference in what you can afford. AmeriCorps or Peace Corps, students can receive funding from that if they promise to do the AmeriCorps or Peace Corps program. ROTC or the junior ROTC, you can get money for that, and that turns into the National Guard. And students, while you're attending school or high school, save some money and pay for college, okay? You can save your wages and use that money to go to school. We always, gotta laugh out of that one, right? Always consider the private loan sources after you've secured or researched all the other opportunities. Like I said, that costs a little bit more. They have it really strict, or their rates are based on your credit score, so they have a different, it's their money. They can make whatever, you know, requirements they can. They can make you, you know, jump through hoops if they want to get that money. So we always say, consider all other options before you go to a private or alternative. but they're there to help you. They are out there. What the student could do now and what the parents can do now, you can apply for the, do your FAFSA right now. We're talking, it was available October 1st. Today's the 19th, so it's been out there for a couple weeks. Apply for your FSA ID account. You can do that now if you plan to do your FAFSA like in 2 weeks or whatever. It might take a day or two to get it, but I recommend that you do apply for the FAFSA ID first and then do your FAFSA. Have that in your hand when you do that. Visit college websites. Make sure you apply by the application deadline or the school's deadline. Talk about with what is affordable. Talk amongst yourselves and make sure that you can afford whatever school the child plans to attend. You don't want to eliminate schools that you can't afford because you want to make sure that the school might be able to offer you some money. Using that price calculator, that will give you an estimate of what it will cost to officially go to that school. But again, it's generals, it's very estimated income, estimated information. Explore scholarships. Scholarships are a really unmet source or untapped source that you can apply and get funding from. So it's really important that you do that. Use the resources that are available to you. Again, this PowerPoint will be on the website. They said it will be on Canvas. All these websites that are listed here, most of them, well, FIA.org, you can deal with it, is a FIA program that they have that deals with budgeting, what you can plan to, budgeting for college, budgeting after you get out of school. The MySmartBorrowing.org is a FIA product that you can receive. This will allow you to put in some information and it'll tell you what they expect you to earn in the future when you graduate with your college degree. So it kind of gives you an estimate of what opportunities you should secure, what you should research and go to give you the best dollar for your whatever education that you plan on receiving. If you want to make a lot of money, you don't go into the social services program. If you don't want to work during weekends and holidays, you don't go into the food preparation programs or restaurant programs because you're going to be working every holiday and every weekend, every evening, those type of things. It's really a good tool that it will give you a lot of good information. Studentaid.gov is where you go to complete your FAFSA, as well as your master promissory note and entrance counseling. That's needed. I listed our website here. If you have any questions, we have a lot of videos on the financial aid webpage at the college that's generic information. So it's not specifically directed to Bucks schools, but it gives you information. If you don't know what a program is, you can type it in. We have a chat bot as well as FATV called Get Answers. You can use our website to secure or to find out what it really means. So there's opportunities out there for you to apply and use and get all the information that you can do. You can do to receive financial aid. So in summary, what you need to do is you need to apply using the FAFSA. FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. You get the results. The results that you receive are also sent to the schools that you list on the FAFSA. Each school is going to give you that information. You're going to get a financial aid award offer. You're going to compare those results to whatever school that you plan on attending that you get accepted to. And then you're going to make your decision of what school that you plan to attend. It's going to be a long process, but it's a process that's required to get financial aid, and it's very worthwhile if you do your FAFSA application on time. You get the opportunity to get the most of your information, and you get the opportunity to get the most awards if you do it on time. So the next slide is if anybody has any questions, and I want to thank everybody for attending. There is information out there regarding Bucks. I said it's a generic thing, but I have to have a plug-in. We do have an open house on Saturday. If you want to come, it's 10 to 3. Like I said, I gave our financial aid website if you have any generic information or you have any questions. And also, I listed our financial aid email address. If you have questions and you want to email us, we will get back to you within a day or two, okay? So thank you for attending. I hope this is information that you can use, so good luck.